Hello, hello, and welcome to the Inside Events podcast by Swapcard. I am your host, Megan Powers with Powers of Marketing, and my company provides marketing strategy, execution, and training to organizations that want to improve their brand, grow their visibility, leads, and sales. If you don't follow us on Twitter already, please be sure to follow us at the Event Profs. We'd love to hear your feedback on the episodes and any suggestions or questions you have. You can hit us up there. Swapcard is putting on an event, an online experience next week. It's called Evolve. It's the virtual event for planners, and we'll include the link to the show notes. This, I believe, is going to be published a day or two before it starts. So if you're listening to this, you are watching the video, you'll have a chance to register still. It's going to be an immersive and digital event experience. You can watch and participate to industry roundtables, exchange and network with peers from all over the world, discovering a new digital and modern event experience from home. You'll be able to chat face-to-face with other people. There'll be fun games, AI-powered matchmaking, targeted meetings, in addition to all of the content. And it is supported by Mash Media. I'm going to be moderating a session, and it is called The Role of Marketing and Communication in Pivoting to Virtual. I'll be moderating along with guests Kimberly Hardcastle. She's the Chief Marketing Strategist with MDG. And Jan Alessi, he's the director of the World Football Summit. But let's get to my lovely guests, Michelle Bruno and Dahlia Gazzar. How are you, ladies?
Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you, Megan?
Pretty good. I think that has to be the longest intro. I try to keep my intros short, right? Because I know when I listen to a podcast, I'm like, just get to it. Just tell me, what are we going to talk about today?
A lot of good stuff that you shared, though.
Yes. Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, important. I think right now, and we're going to get into all this, there's a lot of saturation with online events, but I think as we move forward in this time, if people can get more creative and strategic with their online experiences, and I think the fact that we've moved to online won't be such a shock and won't be such a like a tragic thing. Obviously, we want to get face-to-face again, 100%. But in the meantime, without knowing, and I'm going to ask you not to be oracles, but at the end, I'm going to want to get your take on when that exactly is going to happen. But I want to read your bios first. Michelle Bruno is president of Bruno Group Signature Services and publisher of Event Tech Brief. She's a technical marketing writer, technology journalist, publisher, content marketer. As a former supplier and conference planner, trade show manager, Michelle sees the technology and evolution of the live event industry through a unique lens. She chronicles change through articles in event industry publications, event technology, company blogs, and at eventtechbrief.com. At her firm, Bruno Group Signature Services, she helps create content and strategies for companies interested in attracting more customers through digital marketing channels. Michelle, I use that term through a unique lens actually in my own bio. So I read yours and I was like, hot diggity, I know I liked her.
Oh, I probably borrowed it from someone else too. The way creativity works.
Right, exactly. All right, Dahlia is the founder of Dahlia Plus Agency. Dahlia has an OMG attitude about all things tech and audience engagement solutions. With more than a decade of experience in the meetings and events sector, working on both the professional planning side and as an association collaborator, Dahlia is known as the coffee-fueled go-to source for trend-setting solutions, tech news, and social media expertise. Her mission is to untether the busy professional from their desktop and office and enable them to be more efficient and productive working from a beach in Mexico, umbrella drink in hand, we'll get back there eventually, right? Through their mobile device, utilizing smart solutions and apps. Okay, so what's the best way for our listeners and viewers to get in touch with each of you? Dahlia, why don't you start first?
You can catch me on any social media platform Dahlia El Gazzar, especially on LinkedIn, Twitter, Insta, Facebook, if you'd like, or Dahlia@dahliaplus.com.
Awesome. And Michelle?
I'll make it easy. Michelle at brunogroup.com, or my website is brunogroupss.com.
Awesome. And of course, I'll have links to all your socials and all that, all your websites and all that good stuff in the show notes. Okay, so I want to kick off with, as the earth has really shifted beneath all of us, there's been a renewed use of technology in the meetings and event space, but of course, this is not new to either of you, both women who have been working in event tech for quite a while. What do you think is the top lesson that you believe event organizers have learned so far? Why don't you start with you, Michelle?
I don't think they've learned one.
Oh.
I hear from many this mantra over and over: nothing will create the live experience. It's almost like giving up a little bit on what else they could have and the other opportunities that are out there. So I think that if anything, they learned that the disruption that they always feared and never knew where it would come from has now arrived. And I think that they're going to need some more convincing to make sure that they're able to transition into what's next. But I don't know that they've learned a whole lot, because I think they're still in the grieving process.
That is a fair statement. All right, that's a great answer. Dahlia, what do you think?
I'm 200% with what Michelle is saying. I also think that event planners, organizers, they truly think at the moment, and that they can replicate or duplicate the conference that they lost or canceled or postponed, replicate it in a virtual world. And I think it's a little bit myopic in a way, because it truly is not the case, and it doesn't lend itself to the word experience, to be honest. But slowly and surely, they are finding out that they can be super creative if they want to be with their virtual or hybrid events. The other lesson and it's not a lesson, but the reality is virtual has always been with us. It's always been on their to-do list, but it's never been achieved by some or many, because it is a different skill set. It's a different way of planning. So the focus has always been, and it should be, in their annual meetings, in their face-to-face meetings. And so the lesson here is, it's not a nice to have. It truly has to be part of your event portfolio going forward, no matter what, because we're dealing with a global pause and a huge human fear factor that it will take a long time for that to subside. This is not like 9/11. And so you have to be super creative, super collaborative in order to maintain that creativity and those experiences that your organization is known for. And I think the planners are going to have to figure that out real quickly.
Yeah, no question.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, like you talked about strategy around this shift is going to be crucial for success, as events have and continue to move online. We know several organizations have quickly shifted and were able to pull it off. But now as we move forward, there's some hope, I think, that events will be able to happen in September, and I don't know. So we'll see, and we'll talk about that more. But what do you think, what's the number one strategy that event planners or organizers should have in making this shift? to like everything you just described, Dahlia, like knowing that, okay, this is our reality now. You want to start first, Dahlia?
Okay, so I honestly don't believe there will be events happening this year.
Okay.
Not at the I don't want to say magnitude, but not as big of the events that people think will happen. And I throw it back into, it's not you as an organizer, it's them.
Right.
So the them are all your partners that you need to put on a successful show, whether it's your venues, whether it's your caterers, whether it's your city, or whether it's your even event technology partners, your AV, to put on a show. They need to come on full board. And I don't mean to be Debbie Downer. I am not an oracle. Well, they call me the Dalai Lama, but in this case, I truly think that, you know, put your efforts into creating something that is an experience that will be in touch and will, you know, continue to foster those relationships of the members, non-members, partners, etc., so that when you do come to face-to-face or you do a blended event, they will be still there for you, listening to you.
Right.
So I until there's a vaccine, you know, you think of all the bits and pieces of going to an event, airports, you know, transportation, masks if needed, the hotel, all of that. It's actually creating anxiety for me, just like figuring
talking
out
about it. Yeah.
I'm safe. And, you know, and are you going to be potentially putting yourself at risk, others at risk, you know, all of that.
Right.
So that's,
yeah. All right. All right. So Michelle, what do you think is, what's the number one strategy that planners should have?
So when I'm talking to planners, a lot of times, you know, when I'm asking them, well, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? You know, how are you managing the new world? Not going to say the new normal.
I love, thank you.
and Megan, thank you for not using the P word either.
Yeah.
So keep using shift.
Yeah.
Yes. There's sort of two strategies, right? One is to take your virtual experience and use it and with it emulate what you had in the live experience, something that Dahlia just touched on. The other strategy is to create something that is in and of itself entirely different, that will live alongside the live event strategy, so that you can now have two channels in which to communicate, in which to, you know, whatever, reach the objectives that you want, instead of one. I favor the second, because the sort of second, you know, doing something totally different opens up way more opportunities for these organizers that I think that they haven't really even begun to ingest. There's so many less limitations in the digital world than there are in the physical world. So strategically, you're either going one way where it's like, I just want to take a trade show and I want to throw it online. And we know we've had a couple of rounds of that. It never worked because people just didn't like it. They kept thinking, but I want to be in the real thing and I'm not. So wah, me.
Right.
The second thing is just like, we can start exploring, you know, new add-ons, and we'll talk about creativity, but you've got to just from the get-go decide, are you gonna just try and like reinvent the wheel with different materials, or are you gonna, you know, completely go in another direction and do something absolutely fabulous? If you do the latter, it's a brand new frontier, and I think the opportunities are endless, unlimited.
Yeah, for sure. For me, the big thing that that I keep coming back to is there's a huge opportunity here to build community in a different way than we have. the fact that you're in person and able to, you know, hug your friends, you know, the people that work in this industry with you, you know, that you've known for years, is lovely, but you're potentially not meeting as many people as you could. So there's an opportunity here. And I think we're already kind of seeing it, like on the Expo chat this morning, there are a lot more people on Expo chat than were in the past. And I'm getting to know people through this Expo chat that I never had seen before, and, you know, getting their viewpoints. And so there's things that we can do socially to build a stronger community, so that then when we do come together, because this has always been my thing, right? Like the online is never, I did my master's thesis on face-to-face versus online communication within the context of trade shows.
Michelle?
So very specific. But the solution was that the online is a complement to the offline. And so now here we are with this great opportunity, although it's not one that we asked for, right? But there is that opportunity to build community. And I think that if you do it right, it's going to be amazing. Okay, so now I want to move a little bit to creativity, and Michelle touched on it a little bit. So everyone's so focused on the technology, right? And especially when you see, like Dahlia, that webinar that you did last week, everyone wanted to know, what platform did you use? What did you, you know, like the whole, so that's the how, right? That's the how we're moving online. That's the how we're going to hold hybrid events. But how can event organizers get more creative in the production of online events, you know, versus just the throwing up the videos and just having it be a one-way broadcast? Dahlia, what do you think?
So the just going back to the technology platform, and kudos to all the tech companies that all of a sudden, you know, there's this influx of platforms out there. What I advise organizers to do is don't try to design an experience based on a box, based inside of a platform. You have to think a little bit bigger creatively, because that's what's going to set you apart. That's what's going to set you apart in the sense of not only the experience, but also the event brand loyalty, virtually or blended, as well as you truly need to think of the production of it, same as you would when it was a face-to-face, how you are producing this experience, how are you managing it? And then when you think of the creativity, that's when, like Michelle was saying, sky's the limit. So you think of the content, you think of the different formats, don't have talking heads, think of the engagement strategy. There has to be a huge, huge engagement strategy. There has to be also an educational part to what type of content different stakeholders should be creating. Meaning, instead of having infomercial videos or sell sheets, for example, from exhibitors or your sponsors, have them do something that is more educational, more of the ask of, my business is in trouble. Everybody's business is in trouble. My brand is in trouble. Help me help you. And imagine that type of information exchange. That's gold right there. And then you can create the packaging. The registration fee, you get what's on the program. You upsell the package, you get more content, or you get more one-on-one time. Or like, for example, if it's an industry event, have people pay more so that they have one-on-ones with Megan and with Bruno and with Dahlia, for example. So the creativity is going to have to be about, how are you bringing people together? The matchmaking. Is it going to make sense? Is it worth its time? Because right now, time is gold. I don't want to be away from my puppy. I don't want to be away from my kids. The puppy comes before the kids, by the way.
I noticed that.
Right? And I don't want to be in front of a laptop from 8 to 5. There is no compelling reason that you're going to put me for 2.5 days because you had it planned in a face-to-face. in front of a laptop. So you better be creative. It better be amazing. And then I will give you more than money. I will give you all the social media hype you want. I will bring in Bruno and Powers with me to this. I'm going to drag them and say, you got to come to this with me. That's what you want. That's what you need to get to.
I love it. Michelle, what do you think?
First of all, if Dahlia didn't make it abundantly clear, if there's anyone out there that's never done a virtual experience before and they're just now going, how can I make this creative, or what's the technology that I need, or whatever, you're already so far behind in your progress that, the recommendation, first of all, is please, for the love of, insert your deity here. Go to a creative agency with experience in creating virtual experiences and let them hold your hand through the whole process, and think about all the things that you can't possibly think of because you have no experience in this. And all of this, while there might be some crossover in terms of project management or things like that with live experiences, this really isn't the same thing. There's a lot more things, and I am far from an expert, but in the background, when I've been involved in some of these things, even just like complex Zoom calls, there's a lot of moving parts, and it's really just dumb to try and do it on your own. So that's the other thing. In terms of creativity, the first thing that I think about is making a big fat list of everything that I can do online that I can't do in person. And one of those things that I've done is virtual reality experiences that to me were so compelling. They were seated me in a room with another person. We could converse. We could have this intimate experience one-on-one inside of a virtual meeting room that I've never had in decades of being at a live event. There's no distraction. You're totally, there with the other person, and your mind is actually tricked into thinking you're actually there. So get over, this being the new replacement, and start thinking about how creative you can be in a brand new channel. And VR, I think, is one of those things that you can do besides the matchmaking and all of the other digital things. So those are my thoughts.
Nice. Yeah. So there's a company called Atomic, and they're based in Newcastle, England, and they have a one-day conference called Atomicon that they provide. Actually, theirs is a reverse. You're not like a member and then you pay for the conference. You pay for a membership and in Atomic, and then you get the conference as part of your membership. So they made like the quickest, most amazing shift to online. So normally how they do it, they do the day before, they call it fringe events or fringe content, where it's like bonus material, and then it's a one-day thing. So what they decided to do was make an entire month so April was Atomic month, and they had fringe content throughout the whole month, which was live, Facebook Live presentations by people who are in the social media space and whatnot, professionals in business. And so then people could interact with them. And then the day of, and they did just all this other stuff. They created a pop-up Facebook group where they had someone who was in charge of helping to connect people, what kind of person do you want to meet? So it was actually a person who was doing all that work, and they had actually several people, a team of people creating FOMO, throughout the month, showing interviews with people. And then the day of, the keynotes, the sessions themselves were pre-recorded, but the person who was giving the presentation was in the chat. So you were like hearing them talk, but then you could ask the person who was talking on the video questions, and they were answering in real time. It was really, really cool. I stayed up late so I could see Mari Smith and different people who I wanted, like the first session started at 2 a.m. for me. So I was like, okay, I'm a night owl. I stayed up till 4:30 and then slept through. I woke up at 8:30 with my laptop on my lap and then started watching it again. It was hilarious. Anyway, point being, like they did a really good job. Like they should they should 100% write up a case study. Someone should write up a case study about how they did it. Because not just because they did it so swiftly, but because it was so effective, and they just, it was really a sight to see. Pretty amazing. Okay. So on the event, or on the Expo chat this morning, there was a question from the Mice blog HQ. Would be interested in knowing what would be the ratio of signups for paid versus free events online. Will paid events mean more engagement, less no-shows, better target audience, etc.? And then delegates will save on travel costs, but will they be ready to pay for online? Okay, so far, most of these events have been free, right? And like we talked about before, even Dahlia said, oh, I signed up for that, and I'll see if I can pop in, right? Because we kind of have less, we have a lower investment, like less guilt if we don't show up. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on how and when event organizers can and should start charging for these online experiences? Dahlia, what do you think?
So I am actually finding that event organizers are charging. Now, they are being creative in the sense of refunds. So like, for example, if they had face-to-face and they sort of shifted or transitioned their conference online, then there might be a refund of some kind, not for the entire registration, but partial. And that could be because some of them have accreditation, you know, so people will need to consume or go to the workshops, they would need to consume the content, etc. The influx that we're seeing right now of free content is by industry. So like if you look at our events industry, there's a ton of free sessions. And when you ask me, hey, are you going to be at that one? And I'm like, I'm going to try to pop in. It's truly, and I'll be totally honest, is because it's the same content over and over again. If there was a differentiator, or if I feel like I'm going to be getting something different from it, I would pay. I don't think event organizers should be creatively developing a program or content that's same old, same old. And what you put together is what you should be charging for. And you should charge more for the experience. You should charge more if you're matchmaking, if you're scheduling appointments between the right people. If you're not wasting my time, then I would definitely pay for it. Seth Godin, hands down, he can sell me air and bottles and I will buy it. And, you know, I will not even ask any questions about it. So he went and he created the Akimbo workshops. He created the Real Skills Conference, and it's all Zoom related. Now, are we all zoomed out? Hell yes, we are. But I knew what I was going to get out of it. It was spelled out. It was compelling. It showed me who I'm going to meet. Boom, I'm in for it. Rachel Hollis just had her Rise show, which was supposed to be thousands and thousands of people together, you know, in a face-to-face, and she took it live, and she was very creative in packaging the registration, and every package had additional like content to it. Her workbooks, then you had to upsell. Her, you know, VIP, so you had one-on-one time with her or dinner with her virtually. Then she upsold you on that as well. And I paid my $65 and I loved it. I was actually there from 12 to 5 and I was dancing in my kitchen with my kids in the end of it. So you have to make it compelling. The marketing has to be super different going forward, in my opinion. And this is going to be a very, very tricky part, because our event organizers, marketing is not a preferred hat they like to wear. Neither is technology.
Right. Well, yeah, we know this. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so they're now in waters that I think, unless they're asking for help or collaboration, and I don't mean like consultants, I mean co-create with your ambassadors, co-create, go ask every single exhibitor, not your VIP exhibitors, not your Apples and your Facebooks. Ask every single exhibitor, what do you want from a conference or an event? Ask them. Don't send out a survey. Just call and ask them and see if they can help you create that.
I love that. Yeah, there's something to be said for a crowdsourcing.
Yeah.
You know, moving forward, I think that's one of the opportunities here. Michelle, what do you think?
So I'm going to sort of add on and maybe illustrate a little bit more what Dahlia is saying. First of all, the organizer has got to have already created a community that wants whatever you got, right? So for Dahlia, it's Seth. There are communities that, yes, I would buy stuff. That's number one. Number two is, I don't necessarily think that all organizations can actually sell a ticket to their virtual experience as a standalone thing. But when you think about it, most people, a lot of people, when they attend a virtual experience, will A, ask for the speaker slides, B, ask for additional resources or ebooks or workbooks like Dahlia was talking about. So the organizers should think about creating more stuff to sell alongside that they actually would find, you know, the participants would find value in and would pay for. The other thing is not to look at the virtual experience as like this one-off thing, but as one channel of many. One is the live trade show or the live conference. One is the virtual experience. One is magazines. One is matchmaking. One, whatever. They can have this entire set of tools and maybe sell one subscription to all of it, or maybe a la carte it if it makes sense. I just talked to someone 2 weeks ago from an association who said, we are currently rethinking our association membership top to bottom and thinking about selling things a la carte instead of just saying, oh, you're a member, see you until next year when it's time to renew, sort of thing, you know? So like Dahlia said, it's about creating value in different components that people will pay for and looking at this as one channel of many and creating value across all the channels.
And,
yes.
and can I just add on to
Yeah.
that? So that is truly what event organizers should be doing right now. They should be auditing their products. Their products are around content and connections. Mm-hmm. Their products should be a continuum from one to another. This is not one-offs anymore. So that's one thing, because in general, when you have sponsorship, and you should throw away your prospectus right now, you know, for your sponsors, this is where, like what Michelle is saying, you look across your products, you don't have them compete against each other. They cannot compete against each other anymore. And when you go to a sponsor, you're not selling them a booth. You're selling them branding, you're selling them visibility, you're selling them proper connections and data points across your products.
Yeah, and just think about the opportunities just with regard to sponsorship. If you slice and dice it into multiple channels. Hello, a prospective sponsor. Do you want to just be on our mobile channel? Or would you like to also be on our virtual experience channel? Or would you like to be a sponsor of our live event? That way you can get a lot of sponsors in the door that don't have the big dollars, you know, and then you automate the whole sponsorship sign up and, you know, execution. And I think you can make a lot more revenue there.
And that's an event tech idea right there. There is, I would like to see a platform that, from a sponsorship or exhibitor, whatever label you want to put them, actually tracks the amount of revenue and the touch points from a sponsor perspective and with attendees. How much money, how many times, what data is collected? and I'd like to see a platform that does that. So if any tech companies listening to this, please contact me, because I don't think it exists the way it should.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, and it should be, I think it should either be built in to, it should be created with an open API. The last thing we need is like 10 different platforms we're now trying to work with, right? Yeah. So the interactivity will be huge with the tools that people are already using in terms like with the event app now, having, you know, you see the Swapcards and the other, you know, platforms. This was on their dev list, but it got put to the top. Already they were adding in having a virtual event or an online event incorporated within the platform. So now you're not using one or the other. You are giving your attendees, whether they are in person or online, an opportunity to interact with each other in different ways. So yeah, so that's something that I think should be added on to those apps that people are already using. That's a great idea. I love it. See, we're making this is like Shark Tank for event tech. All right, so we kind of already talked about this, and I think you already answered it, but I just want to talk a little bit more about hybrid. This is something that was a thing 10, 11, 12 years ago, and for some reason went away. Like, I don't know why. I mean, we knew, and I talked about this with Kiki on the last episode, we know that it doesn't compete. We know that just because someone buys your event online doesn't mean that they won't show up face to face, you know, next year or whatever. So anyway, it should have been in place already still for so many reasons. So how do you picture this moving forward as we start to meet in person again? Do you see hybrid as a standard? And do you think, like, I think there should be someone else on the team. Like, you need to have an additional person who manages that piece of it, and for that matter, who, while the show is going on, is in charge of making sure that questions are getting answered and people are engaging with each, you know, like, because, you know, it's kind of like a show within the show. They end up networking with each other on a different level than they would if they were sitting at a crescent round in a ballroom. Sometimes those people that are online. So what do you think in terms of standard moving forward? Dahlia, you want to start?
Sure.
Or Michelle, either way.
I definitely think there needs to be like a hybrid or virtual producer. I think the role or the rise of event technologist is crucial right now. And if people were toying around with the idea of bringing in an event technologist that will take a look at all the different integrated solutions or not integrated solutions and the band-aided solutions and this and that.
Yeah.
Not anymore. You know, you need someone who can, who has a voice within the organization, who is in touch with what's going on in the technology landscape, who knows hybrid, who knows, call it what you want, digital, virtual, face-to-face. They have to know what kind of tracking it has to be in place, what they can do different, really track KPIs as well. And it's going to be needed. You cannot put it on your team to be your virtual team. It is not fair. And it's not fair to give it to marketing. It's not fair to give it to IT. It's just, it's not in their DNA. And you won't move forward if you try to keep it in-house, to be very honest at this point. The other thing that people need to realize is when you go into virtual land, and if you go into hybrid, you know, you're talking about new setups and new event design on the face-to-face. So you're capturing content different ways. And how are you going to project that virtually? How are you going to package it to sell it, you know, 365, all that good stuff. And I also think that at this point, you truly need to have a tech audit in place. Like, you need to take a look at what solutions you have because some of them don't serve you anymore. You know, your standalones might not serve you anymore. And this is where I don't mean to go ballistic on RFP mode, because I do not believe in RFPs anymore, but you need to take a look at what you've got going on from a tech platform and from a skill set internally at the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
So I just want to understand what one means when they say hybrid event. Are you saying that at the same exact time that a live event is going on, there's also a digital twin happening right at the same time?
So, yeah.
Right? So for some organizations, I think it's a really good idea, especially those who have a lot of attendees to begin with. They have the sort of room to siphon off some of those to the hybrid facsimile, right? But for other organizations, it might be A, too technically difficult, B, they might not have enough live people coming to their live event to now risk having some come in through the other door, even though there'll be a lot more available to them to come through the hybrid door. But my third thing is that it might be a better strategy, depending what the objectives of the organization and any sort of manifestation of content is, to have your live event and then some months later have a virtual event as a way of sort of going down this continuum of engagement and content and things like that. I sometimes question, the value of having a hybrid or a virtual element right at the same time, when you might be able to get actually more value out of moving it off of its parent and later down the line. So I guess my point is, it really depends on what the organization is after. If it's community building, which it should be essentially, I don't know if a hybrid is going to be the answer, because I don't see that it's like going to be less work to put a hybrid twin onto a live event at the same time than it is have your live event, have that just be the one thing and let it do its thing the way its thing does, and then do a virtual experience later on and let that thing do what its thing does. You know what I mean? And keep the love going all year round. What do you think?
I agree with you. I see where you're going with it. I like that approach. I think there are elements of your face-to-face or your live event that you need to capture in order to go virtual with, right? Mm-hmm. So whether you're getting general session or specific breakouts or whatever it is, I'm with you that you should not be trying to get all the information, all the content or the experience that's happening face-to-face and trying to push it virtually. That's not necessary. That's a lot of work, right? And I do like what you're saying, where you might be taking some of that content and then making it into a different event later on, a virtual event versus full hybrid. I also think that we need to get our terminology straight. Mm-hmm. So what is a hybrid? What is a blended? What is a digital? What is live anymore? Is it really live, or is it face-to-face, or is it
and perpetual, these perpetual trade shows now that are year-round, and their marketplaces and that whole thing.
So like toy association, right? So what's Toy Fair is all about is about the products on the show floor. And basically when they went virtual, they had their show already in January, but they went virtual with the toy marketplace, where now it's actually a golden opportunity, because exhibitors were limited on how many toys or products they could bring on the show floor. Now, if they have it every week, every 2 weeks, you get to showcase more. That's a huge revenue stream. That's like one-on-one, like, you know, that you can do matchmaking, all of that. And this is where I say it can be propelled where it is becoming its own virtual experience. Are organizers equipped to think that creatively on their own, though? That's a question I'm asking both of you.
Mm-hmm. No, that's why I think they need an intermediary at this point, either an agency or a digital event strategist or someone to like help them think through these really important questions, because it's complex.
Yeah,
It
well,
truly
and
is, and it's
yeah,
trial and error too. So,
well, and someone who gets the tech but also can be creative with you, can come up with different solutions. Facebook, this is something that came up this morning also on while I was on SME chat and Expo chat at the same time, because they're on the same hour. But Facebook is coming back with what they're calling live with. So you can add someone into your Facebook Live. And so I kind of had this light bulb go off this morning of where, well, that's a great opportunity to on-site work, have a team that's creating FOMO, that's part of the digital team, the hybrid team, the whatever you call it team, that can, like, you know, invite people from home to be there, to be at the place, interview, you know, talking with a speaker or you know, a performer, whatever, like that there's endless opportunities really for combining the digital with the in-person to make that event, whatever you call it, more special.
I'm all for, if you're at the live event, having opportunities for someone to have access to someone who's not there digitally, you know, something like that. I'm just not sold on duplicating something in the air that you have on the ground and thinking that there'll be much added value to it to justify the expense. You know, it's just something to consider.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I do think that being able to attend, and I have a conference that I attend, they have what's called a virtual pass, and it's not actually virtual, like you just get the recordings later.
Right.
It's not like a real, it's sort of, it's kind of misleading. But I would like to be able to kind of be there while it's going on. Personally, you know, I already watched the live tweeting. For me, live tweeting, when people are at an event, I'm watching that, you know, and kind of like putting myself in that place by following along with the people that are live tweeting sessions and stuff. But you're missing something in that.
There's also like, there's also Simulive, which is, you know, you get the recordings, but you also get the live speaker there again during when you go back in to watch it the second time, and then you could have an exchange with that person. That's different.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Kind of a value added virtual experience. I think opportunity, Dahlia will agree with this. The technology itself brings the opportunity. You look at the technology and see what it can do. You can immediately go, I could do that in my conference. I could take this content and it would be perfect for that. There's a lot out there that, you know, organizers never thought of because they never had to, and now they're forced to. Right. And that's why I say the doors just flung open.
Yeah, sure. we just did an event. We just did a virtual summit where the organizer and you know, it was a brilliant idea where they partnered with Grubhub, and they were able to get sponsored, like, you know, rebates or cards or whatever, and everybody was eating at the same time. They ordered their food together, you know, and then you have these fulfillment ideas, which is wonderful, because like another partner or client of ours decided to send a goodie box, and right. every day they're like, you take this out first. The puppies had hoodies on with the hashtag of the show on it. That was nice. Brilliant.
Wow.
They had, you know, and then this was their first virtual summit. So they had a little champagne bottle. Everybody popped in court. Do you not think that's a brand, like, that's amazing? Everybody was on social media, you know, taking pictures and sharing it. That's what you want. You build your community that way as well. So like this is where like song division comes in. How brilliant is song division, where you're able to like get, you know, words from everybody. It's the same with photo mosaics. Anything that will get the tribe together, will get the stories together, will have that kumbaya type of feel to it, as if you're there live. Have at it. Do it. Don't even think about it. Get it sponsored if you need to.
Right.
Bring in the llama. Talking about the llama. I honestly think the farms, they're renting out their animals. Bring them into a Zoom call. I think it's fabulous.
No, and I think what we're saying here is that it's not that the creativity is not there. It's not that the technology is not there. It's not that the ideas are not there. The strategists are there. The agencies are there. They're all there. What is lacking is the will to think outside the literal box. And once they do, there's just so much they can do. And I don't think it has to be expensive.
No.
It's not going to be cheap.
Right.
But live events are not inexpensive either. I think if you put a little elbow grease into it, you can come out with something fantastic that's digital.
The challenge that event organizers have and always have is they need to get out of their own way.
Exactly.
They're in their head, and then they get stuck. They need to get unstuck. Mm-hmm. And they're mentally fatigued at the moment.
Right.
So
yeah, I think a lot of what we're hearing and seeing in the industry is the venues, the destinations, the hotels, they're scared. I mean, they are like, I think scared to the point of being unrealistic about about the reality of what's going on and when things will actually get back. I'm not going to use the N word. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think, but I also like creative. There's a beer festival in San Diego, and that's already done this. They did that. They pivoted on this. Oh, I used the word. Oh. Quickly. And a wine festival where they're still doing it online, and they're shipping you the wine in advance, and they're going to do the tasting together, which is totally different from that experience where you're just walking around meandering from table to table. Sure, I'll try that. Now everyone's engaged and you're getting that information all together. And there are a lot of creative things happening. So hopefully more planners and event organizers will start to get out of their own way. Yeah, that would be lovely.
It would.
Ladies, this has been such a great conversation. I'm so happy that this worked out. I do want to ask you one final question that I like. So I want to know, what's like the most important piece of technology or creature comfort or something that's made your life more pleasant over the last couple months since we've been going through this? You have anything like that's, huh?
I specifically ordered lipstick just for this podcast. It's a color that I don't normally wear, to keep my lips moist, and to just sort of like, you can't see my sleeve, but
yeah, it's beautiful.
Do a whole matching thing post Cinco de Mayo. I would just say like little small
creature comforts
like that to make me realize that the world and life still goes on. What we're thinking about now is really first world problems in some ways, not the loss of jobs, but that would be my one sort of creature comfort. And I mean, you cannot downplay the value of nice fuzzy slippers either.
Yes, so. No question. What about you, Dahlia?
Are you asking about tech, or are you asking about something that like just
anything? It could be tech. It could be fuzzy slippers. It could, whatever.
I can't ever find my fuzzy slippers because they get stolen, but in this household. You know, right now it's like mindless television.
Mm.
And Tiger King was like, you know, on the couch for 7 hours, but it's a thing. I'm not going to lie to you, you know. So the whole binging is insanely good at the moment. So when I said Netflix, I meant it.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, I couldn't, I think we were all talking at the same time when you said that, so I couldn't hear what you said. Yeah, Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu. I've been rotating through, and I've started to not binge just one show all in a row, but like hop between, so then I have something to look forward to. See what happens next. Like I'm watching Bones right now. I want to know, then they haven't gotten together yet. I don't know if anyone listening's watched Bones, but they're not
going to give you.
We're in season 4. I know. Well, I know it's funny because, and it reminds me of my mom, so it's sort of sentimental too. But I watched the further seasons. I didn't watch the early on. So anyway, good stuff. Well, ladies, thank you so much. I hope to see you more often, more frequently, and yeah, in person one day. Next year, probably, right? All right, so this has been episode 10. We're in a double digits of Inside Events, and we will catch you next time.